Good evening, everyone, and welcome to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter. There's a lot to cover today, so we're just going to get straight into it. Lexipol, a Texas-based company which develops training manuals, had its databases penetrated by a hacker group known as the Puppy Girl Hacker Polycule, who released the documents to the leak hosting collective DDoS Secrets and a sample of the data, which they sent to the Daily Dot. The data, according to the Daily Dot, included approximately 8,500 files relating to the training, procedural, and policy manuals for various companies, as well as company records that contain names, usernames, agency names, hashed passwords, physical addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers. The Puppy Girl Hacker Polycule claim that it's evidence that lawyers were drafting outlines of these manuals before they were being reviewed by experts and then being sent to police, hospitals, and fire departments, with the experts filling in the details later. One puppy girl was quoted, Dave, did we fact check this? Yeah, the Puppy Girl Polycule hacker story. Did we fact check that one? We did. It's real. How did it get in the rundown? No, I'm asking, I thought we weren't going to do this story. You don't know? Oh, okay. Well, so that means Titan did it. Okay. Well, could you please tell Titan that I'd like to see him in my office as soon... Oh, he's busy. All right. Well, would you please tell Titan that I'm going to be stopping by his office? He doesn't want to see me. That's okay. I'm going to send Titan a strongly worded email. He doesn't want to hear from... a post-it note saying, don't mess with my run. No. Okay, you know what? Don't worry about it. Titan and I will discuss it later. We should do this tomorrow. No. We're going on Greg Terry's show tomorrow. It's the Greg Terry Experience. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be there tomorrow, 4 p.m. You want to do this story with Greg Terry. Who's going to explain to him what a Puppy Girl hacker polycule is? Because it's not going to be me. I guess we could have his head mod do it. Yeah, who's that? Is that Bon Scheller? Great. Send her a copy of the story, and she can deal with it. That's what head mods are for. All right, I'm feeling better now. Can we do the show now? Because yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
No.
No.
No. No. No. No. What?
Call Zelensky.
Oh, Mr. President, hello.
Zelensky, please help me to open the Hormuz Strait.
Sorry, Donald, you don't have the cards right now. You are not in a good position.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and this is In Time. Yeah, I'm not touching that previous story with a 10-foot bad dragon. We have some news that has just come to us. I'm sure, knowing Greg, he's been on this for this is like yesterday's news for him. But Ilyana Remzlo, who has been a Kremlin loyalist, has demanded that Putin be put on trial. He put a manifesto out to his 90,000 Telegram followers entitled "5 Reasons Why I Stopped Supporting Vladimir Putin." Now, he accuses the illegitimate Russian president of waging a, quote, failing war in Ukraine that has caused millions of casualties and wrecked the economy, and has argued that with more than 2 decades in power, Putin is a perfect example of how absolute power corrupts, and demanded that Putin step aside. Now, it was thought that perhaps his Telegram account had been hacked. However, he doubled down by putting out a video remark, which is believed to be him and not AI, saying, quote, Vladimir Putin should resign. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He said this to reporters from his apartment in St. Petersburg. Vladimir Putin should resign and be put on trial as a war criminal. His personalized corrupt system is doomed to collapse, as we are seeing now with the war in Ukraine and elsewhere. The army isn't advancing in Ukraine. The war is going nowhere. There are massive losses. We are fighting over tiny territories that will ultimately give Russia nothing. I have a bad feeling he's going to have a close encounter with an open window. We'll talk about that in a sec. He went on to criticize Putin's authoritarian rule. This man, Putin, has destroyed everything he could lay hands on. The country is literally falling apart. A number of so-called Z bloggers, these are members of Russia's pro-war community, seem to be feeling in kind of a similar way, but none of them have been willing to speak out. There is some hope that by saying this, he could get others to join him. However, obviously, people who speak out have a tendency to suffer massive deceleration sickness, usually the result of falling from a 22nd story window. And Ivan Filipov, who is a researcher of the pro-war movement, said, quote, "This is really unprecedented. I'm struggling to make sense of it." Well, there are 2 ways, in my view, to make sense of it. One, the man has really genuinely had enough and would rather die than not speak his mind, which men of conscience do eventually reach. The other one is that this is an operation by Putin to find people who are trying to undermine him, because if this man speaks out, anybody who supports him, you go, you. The problem with this kind of operation is the guy who does the speaking out still needs to be taken down, because he did speak out against you. So authoritarian regimes will find somebody who's very loyal, somebody they trust, to speak out against them and say, don't worry, we'll pardon you or do whatever. But they actually still need to eventually take care of this person, because they can't let even a fake dissent stand. So I will see. This may be something that we're going to talk about tomorrow with Greg. That's on our Discord. It's on Greg's Discord, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Greg and I are going to talk about the state of the world. Meanwhile, speaking of state of the world, Tulsi Gabbard was speaking today to the Intelligence Committee and said a number of interesting things. She basically said that, and I'll get to the quotes, but she said that the U.S. intelligence assessment that she handed to Trump was that Iran had not been seeking to build a nuclear weapon and had not been enriching uranium and seeking to restore the uranium facilities that had been destroyed. This completely undermines Trump's arguments for the war. This is important for two reasons. One, that makes the war illegal internationally. It was not this preemptive self-defense. Tulsi Gabbard testified under oath to I think it was the Senate Intelligence Committee, that she told Trump Iran was not an immediate threat, period, end of discussion. So that also forces him a problem with the U.S., since only the U.S. can declare war. The Defense Department is now requesting $200 billion to cover the costs of the war. That's what they've sent to the White House. The White House can request any number they want from Congress, but it is unlikely that they will be able to get anywhere near that amount. They would have to pass the filibuster 60% majority in the Senate, and nobody sees them doing that. No Democrat's going to vote for this, and a number of Republicans stand against it in principle. Now that it's come out that Trump was told that the U.S. intelligence matches the intelligence of every other country, and what Iran was saying during the negotiations. They wanted peace, they wanted to settle it, and they were not looking to create a nuclear weapon. And Tulsi Gabbard testified to this. So, let's see. Okay. Now, this creates a complicated problem if you're a human being working in the Trump administration, because you're not allowed to criticize Trump any more than Putin. So Senator John Ossoff, Democrat from Georgia, decided to press Gabbard on whether or not Iran posed an imminent threat. He said, was there an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iran regime, yes or no? Her answer was, it is not the responsibility of the intelligence community to determine whether or not it is an imminent threat. She repeatedly said her job was simply to gather intelligence and send it to who was actually the head of intelligence, the President of the United States. The senator replied to her and said, it is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. In fact, that's how they teach it at the National Intelligence University, is that it's their job to say this is what is a threat and this is what isn't, yes. And the president then decides how to react to it, but her job is to determine what's a threat or not. And she has redefined her job as simply to give him the facts, and he determines whether it's a threat or not, and how she is basically absolving herself of any responsibility for how he took her in giving him the information that Iran was not doing anything with their nuclear program. So, let's see. As a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear facility enrichment program was obliterated. There has been no effort, she said, to try to rebuild their enrichment capability since then. Now, that actually she didn't say. That was in her written testimony. So she provided written testimony to the committee before testifying. She read her written testimony into the record. When she did, she omitted that part. So it's in the written record, but she didn't say it. Senator Mark Warner noted that and said, you chose to omit parts that contradict Trump. That's terrifying. The head of national security feels like she cannot contradict the president with facts. Facts are not acceptable, and we're talking American lives. $200 billion is what they're requesting. By the way, in the last year that Trump came into office, we gave Ukraine $188 billion. And it didn't cost us any of U.S. lives, and we actually got a lot out of that. Russia is a genuine threat, and we're also getting significant intelligence on how our weapons actually operate in the battlefield. They are the only ones who have been using our weapons. They are testing our weapons, and they are improving them for us. We're getting a lot for that money. What we've gotten out of attacking Iran, higher oil prices. The Gerald R. Ford is now virtually crippled. The fire did less damage than we were told, but did in fact take 30 hours to extinguish. It seems to have destroyed 200 beds. So between that and the fact that they are more than 3 months overextended, they have gone for repairs and supplies. They're going to go back into the med. But it's a lot of money, it's a lot of damage, and I don't know what we're getting out of it. Tehran has denied for years that it is seeking a nuclear weapon, and Tulsi Gabbard and nuclear arms monitors have maintained that even if Tehran did want a nuclear weapon, it did not represent a short or medium-term threat to the United States because it could not deliver that weapon this distance for at least a decade, 10 years, before they could deliver a nuclear weapon to the United States. They don't have an ICBM. They can't build one. They can. It'll just take them 10 years and a lot of rubber bands. The foreign minister of Oman, who has mediated the latest round of U.S.-Iran nuclear talks, refuted Trump's claims that the negotiations were not yielding progress, and he is correct. We know for a fact that they agreed to give up all of their current enriched uranium supplies. I will, as I have done before, give Trump credit. He negotiated a better deal with them than Obama got, and he got a really good deal. He got a great deal that Trump destroyed at the cost of what this entire war now. Iran would be an ally if we'd kept with this deal, but managed to actually leverage that into a better deal. But he wasn't interested in a deal. He just wanted to attack him, and so he did sham negotiations so he could attack Iran. The concept of imminent threat is significant in determining the legality of Trump's decision to strike a sovereign nation. It's also significant under U.S. law, as only Congress can officially declare a war. Now, of course, we are not on a war. We are on an excursion. But $200 billion is a lot to pay for an excursion. So I think this testimony, to finish up with the testimony too, she mentioned that contrary to what Secretary of War Pete Hegseth has said, Iran's government is intact. Again, Tulsi Gabbard testified today that their government is intact. It is largely degraded. They've gone through multiple layers of secession, but the White House, which had claimed that their ballistic missile capacity was functionally destroyed, the Iranian Navy was destroyed, and the U.S. had obliterated the leadership and military infrastructure, she said none of those things are true. The regime, she said, in Iran appears to be intact, largely degraded by Operation Epic Fury, but nonetheless intact. I know, but it's nice that somebody from this administration testified to that under oath. She's the most competent person in his administration. She's also probably paid off by the Russians too, but it's nice to see somebody telling it like it is. At any rate, we also know, well, we'll get to that in a second. So, is the Strait of Hormuz open or closed? We've had this discussion before, and again, I'd like to I'm sorry, Pete Hegseth on this is just a gem
The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that.
All right, so yeah. Actually, that's not entirely an insignificant point, and the reason is since the war has started, about 90 ships have passed through the Strait. All of those ships have been Iranian. The major Iranian island production facility that we've talked about before, it's been hit, but only the military structure, Karg, is on the other side of the strait. So in order for any oil that Iran produces, any at all, to get out, they have to go through the strait themselves. They've been going through the strait. The U.S. military is not interdicting any of those ships. Why? Well, because that represents a significant portion of the oil, of worldwide oil. If they stop those ships, seize those ships, do anything like that, price of oil is going to go up even more. So they're letting Iran sell at record prices. Last I checked, $109.90. So that's $110 per barrel for oil that Iran is making money off of. Meanwhile, no other ship is willing to go through the strait, and they're not willing to for two reasons. And it's important to understand these two reasons. The first reason is because they don't want to die. They're sitting on something very explosive, and Tehran is capable and will. The Shahed drone has a range such that they can fire a Shahed from anywhere, and I mean anywhere in Iran, and hit the strait. So as long as they know where the ship is and they can see it, they're getting satellite intelligence from Russia. They know exactly where the ships are. They can have a Shahed from anywhere hit it. Now, we have some capabilities to shoot it down, but it's hard because a lot of their launchers are very close to the strait, and that doesn't give us a lot of time to identify the Shahed or the missile or whatever they're sending, track it, and then fire off something that can hit it before they sink something. The other problem is there's only two channels in the strait that are deep enough for oil tankers of this size. One channel in, one channel out. If they sink an aircraft, not an aircraft carrier, that too. If they sink a tanker in one of those channels, that channel's dead until somebody figures out how to get the sunken ship out. So between that and the U.S. doesn't want to hit the Iranian ships coming in and out. We don't want to interdict them, so we're letting them make money. This is the plan. Apparently, Trump was all, yeah, I've got a plan. Of course, I got a plan. I know this straight better than anyone else. Yeah, okay. We have done very little damage, with the exception of two that I recall, to their basic infrastructure and their oil infrastructure. We've hit where storage facilities and stuff like that, but left most of the infrastructure intact. They have said that if anybody hits the infrastructure, they will retaliate by hitting the infrastructure in nearby areas. Now, remember, Trump had said, you know, this is Trump on, oh my God. We have to play this one again, too.
And power. Look what happened. In the last 2 weeks, they weren't supposed to go after all these other countries in the Middle East. Those missiles were set to go after them. So they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked.
All right. Well, he was shocked. They have repeatedly said that anybody who, if they get hit in any of their major production facilities or processing facilities, they will retaliate at other facilities in the area. It could be the U.S. who hit them. They can't hit the U.S. back, so they're going to hit something other than our air bases or our facilities. That has happened today. Israel, with U.S.'s advanced knowledge but without our participation, struck the Iran's South Pars gas field. Now, this is arguably the single largest gas field on the planet. There were multiple fires there. The fires are apparently still going, but contained, so they're not spreading. Iran immediately said it was going to retaliate. It notified Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia that it was going to destroy their infrastructure. They gave a list of the infrastructure that they were planning on destroying. Let's see. A number of various facilities at each of those countries. This gave those countries time to evacuate those facilities. To the best of our understanding, there were no deaths at any of those facilities, but several hours after the warning, Iran did attack them. One of the facilities is in Qatar. It is the second largest gas field in the world. Actually, I guess it's two gas fields, and whether or not you consider it two or one makes it either the biggest or the second biggest. At any rate, then ostensibly the top three gas fields in the world are currently on fire. This represents a significant escalation as they are now targeting the infrastructure and ability to create our natural gas, and the natural gas strike on Iran is actually extraordinarily serious. Natural gas is their primary energy source. They have natural gas that they send to even the smallest village. They're actually very good about building the infrastructure for all of their people to get natural gas for heating. So they have now attacked multiple gas and fuel production facilities in three of their neighbors. Whether they'll continue doing so, nobody knows. This is roughly a proportionate response, so presumably they'd stop. The question is, why did Israel do this? The only thing I can think of is Israel does not want the U.S. to taco out of this. That's the only reason I can think of. Even Trump was like, no, we're not participating in this. What they did hit one of the jet fuel depot that was providing jet fuel for the United States in Saudi Arabia, but the rest in Qatar and UAE were not directly associated with American assets, so they are retaliating on the oil infrastructure. Oil is actually what I want to do, and I did get that, Titan, thank you. Roughly 32% of the world's oil comes from the Middle East. Right now, 20% goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So we haven't lost the full 20%. We've lost because Iran, which represents 4% of the total, is getting its ships through. Not at the same rate, but for the sake of argument, we'll say it's the same rate. They're going somewhat slower, but they're still getting their ships through. So the world oil supply is down by about 16%. The reason is because Iranian oil is still coming out, while any other oil that has to go through the strait isn't. There are two major pipelines going from east to west in Saudi Arabia and the neighboring countries that allow oil to get out without using the strait. The pipelines don't hold a huge amount. You can't get a huge amount out, but they're usable. But Iran knows that those pipelines are there and has said that it will hit them if their infrastructure continues to get hit. If those get hit, and if Iran continues to hit Saudi Arabian oil and the oil production in other countries, 30% of the world's oil supply is going to stop, because you will have, even if you opened the Strait of Hormuz, at this point, the only people producing oil is going to be Iran. The U.S. is going to put a stop to that, but we're destroying oil fields now, and well, not just the fields, we're destroying the refineries, and that's a really big problem. Let's see. Gulf leaders have denounced these attacks as a violation of international law. Mahid Ansari, a spokesman for the Qatari Minister of Foreign Affairs, said on Wednesday that he condemned Israel for targeting the South Pars. So he condemned Israel for the attack on Iran. And he noted that that gas field is actually an extension of Qatar's own North Field. Qatar shares that field, which means it's an attack on Qatar. However, they also condemned Iran's counterattack, which damaged the rest of the field on Qatar's side. We reiterate, as we have repeatedly emphasized, the necessity of avoiding targeting of vital facilities. We call on all parties to exercise restraint, adhere to international law, and work toward de-escalation in a manner that preserves the security and stability of the region. Unfortunately, that is not happening. This is a significant escalation. And we keep saying that escalation. You know, it just started out with, you know, targeting military installations, but, you know, and the accidental destruction of a desalination plant. Iran has shown significant restraint. They lost a desalination plant, so they destroyed one in Bahrain. They destroyed one. They lost one, they destroyed one. They lost an oil field, a gas field, the largest gas field on the planet. They targeted multiple gas fields and that's roughly the same total. Probably a bit in excess, but they didn't just... So they're actually operating reasonably restrained. I say this because I'd like to point out also that they weren't developing a nuclear bomb. So far, the only unreasonable ones in this entire scenario has been the United States of America, who attacked them knowing they weren't building a bomb, but because Benjamin Netanyahu wanted us to. I don't know. Well, hold on one second. I don't know when we became Benjamin Netanyahu's puppy girl, but now that we are, I'd like to say we should elect people who aren't going to keep us in that position. And thank you, Titan, for forcing me to read up on what a puppy girl is and all that other stuff before the show. It's the type of research I just absolutely delight in doing. Thank you. So, moving forward, Abu Dhabi has shut down all of its gas facilities after debris struck from intercepts over the day. Qatar's state-owned gas company has reported extensive damage following the Iranian counterattack. And again, the counterattack was on their... It's both a city and an oil field. Ras Lafin. Qatar's foreign ministry has called Tehran's attack brazen and a direct threat to the national security and stability of the region. But again, they also condemned the initial attack that spurned it. Iran has reiterated that it will retaliate by attacking any Gulf country, the infrastructure of any Gulf country that participate in response to Israeli strikes in the region that are on field facilities. This marks actually the first time there's been an exchange over facilities, with the exception of the accidental strike on the desalination plant. Fortunately for us, Iran has chosen not to counterstrike on civilians because the destruction of that school was one hell of a thing. I'd say it was a war crime. I truly believe it was an accident, but having said that, it could have and should have been avoided. Qatar in particular, which is where we have CENTCOM, they are an ally of ours and have tried to get closer to us, in particular for defense reasons, have responded by ordering all of Iranian military and security attachés and their staff to leave the country within 24 hours. They have expelled all of them. They have asked the United States for increased protection, arguing that strikes in Qatar threatens the stability of the entire region. That is correct, but the U.S. doesn't appear to be able to. I mean, we can't protect ships going through the strait. And 1/3 of and the ships go in a battle group because you want to protect a carrier. You don't want anyone to sink that carrier, so you've got a lot of ships around it to protect it from various kinds of attacks. So that's why you have carrier battle groups, all the ships around a specific carrier. We have 3 carrier battle groups there. One is now leaving. That'll help. They have condemned, as I said, the brazen attack on Iran, while asserting that Iran did have a right to respond to attacks on their sovereignty and or attacks in violation on their sovereignty. This is hair splitting. So they're like, we agree you have a right to respond. Israel's attacks on you are probably war crimes because you're attacking the infrastructure, but you shouldn't have hit us, is what they seem to be arguing. Now, again, Iran started out by hitting all of its neighbors. Its neighbors got very upset. Iran thought that its neighbors would join with Iran and say, yeah, Iran's hitting us because you're coming in here. Just leave and everything will be fine. That's not what happened. I don't know that Iran is trying to do that again. I think Iran's hoping that that's going to happen, but I don't think that's their goal here. Their goal here is to do so much damage to the energy infrastructure that prices go over 120. Prices stopped at 110 today. 120 seems inevitable. 150 was actually what they said they could get gas prices to without any real difficulty. And they said if the war continues, they would get gas prices to $400 a barrel. I don't think they can do that, but I know they can hit 120, and I think they can probably hit 200. So Trump's doing a great job. So that's Qatar. If you want to know what's going on anywhere else, all of this is being posted on our Discord, along with the Puppy Girl hacker polycule, because interesting story. So that's in there. Let's see. That's the budget request. That's the current oil prices. I do want to hit that before we go. Okay, so there's 2 other things that we need to cover. One, and I'll make this quick. I was going to save this for the end because it just for a natural flow, but since I've got it now and I'll forget it if I save it for the end. A number of more ships have gone to Taiwan. These are all attack ships capable of striking Taiwan. However, according to an assessment that Reuters has released today, they say they released a U.S. assessment. They say that China is not planning to invade Taiwan until 2027. They don't have the capability. The hardest part for them is Taiwan is surrounded by rocks, and they don't have any landers that can land on the rocks. So they've been working on how to get troop landers that can, and I've seen plans with like stilts, and the thing comes in and it's elevated over they're working on it. But this right now, I mean, the question that we've been asking, are they planning on it taking Taiwan right now because the U.S. doesn't have the resources to carry 2 separate wars at once, and we're not going to. But truth be told, Trump has never had any interest in defending Taiwan, so I don't think that the war in the Middle East is a good enough reason for China to go in. The second thing is the consensus is that China would rather have a bloodless coup in Taiwan and are trying to take control of Taiwan without force. This is because right now all they can do is bomb the living daylights out of it. They can't really invade it. They can destroy it, and they will if it comes to that. but they'd rather not because they'd have to kill every man, woman, and child there. It's going to be a war crime. They're going to be pariahs with every country, and they're going to destroy the world economy because, especially now that everything runs on AI, chips from NVIDIA, which come from Taiwan. So they don't want to do this violently. And again, the problem for China is that it's a dictatorial regime. If Taiwan succeeds in leaving, every other region is going to start considering leaving. So they cannot let Taiwan go. It is a strategic national interest. They will go to war over it. They will start World War III over Taiwan not going. We won't. Under even the most liberal president, we won't defend Taiwan to that degree, and we know that China will. They have to. If Taiwan fully just declares its independence, and if it gets treated as independent by every country, including us, we don't treat it as independent publicly. Everybody considers it independent, but nobody treats it that way. And that's all that matters, because Ping only cares about the perception within his country. As long as his country believes that they own Taiwan, he's got no problems. We've got no problems. Taiwan's got no problems. So our president, Biden, used to do this all the time, come out and say, oh, yeah, one China policy. Taiwan is part of China. And he said that publicly. He didn't say that for Americans. He said that so Ping can play that on on everybody's television in China, because the media is completely state controlled. They don't have internet. They do, but it's highly. I think it's the single most. I think China has the single most censored internet on the planet, even more than in Iran. So he actually doesn't care if Taiwan secedes or not. Taiwan is their number one trading partner. Taiwan's number one trading partner is them. I think they're number 3, but number 1 in a bunch of industries. They don't want to destroy Taiwan, and they get a lot of money out of Taiwan, but they will if they have to. So we've tried not to force the issue. Taiwan plays with forcing the issue, but hasn't done it yet. China can't invade and can't do something without just killing them all, anything short of 2027. So it looks bad. And you're going to see in the news a lot of people talking about the ships going into, and listen, I would like to see my number. You want to know how I can make end times numbers rise? Ladies and gentlemen, another ship has just, actually, like, they got 10 warships now. Are they going to take, oh my God, they might take. No. I'd like to do that for the numbers, and because this voice is just so amazing. Like, all the chicks really dig this voice. No, I don't think any of them do, but humor me. All right. So, that's not what we do here. The reality is, all of the evidence is, and they haven't even said they're doing an exercise. This is why people are worried. Nobody has said they're doing an exercise. So they haven't come out and said we're going to do an exercise. So they really should tell people this. And we get worried when they do the exercises too. But we could be wrong. But the evidence as of this moment, U.S. intelligence says that there is no plan to invade. They don't have the ability to do it without basically just bombing the living daylights out of it, bombing it back to the Stone Age. And they don't want to do that because they destroy all the infrastructure that they want to. So at this point, they've moved a number of warships, a number of planes into the area. It looks like... That's my own live chat. Dave, my live chat is mocking me. Dave? Why are you laughing? Son of a... Okay, fine. Fine, I just get no love. That's fine. That's fine. All right, so you're up to date on that. That was a reasonably small, and then we got to get to our last story, which now, because I'm being silly, I have no idea. Oh, yes, I remember what the story was. But we will say, okay. Israel is preparing for a full ground invasion of Lebanon. They've said they're going to do a full ground invasion. They've ordered, and we have video of 2 buildings, and it's amazing. wasn't able to get a copy that we could bring in here, but there was 2 buildings in Beirut. They were at least 8 to 10 stories tall. They were big buildings, and they got struck right at the bottom. And these missiles come in, hit them at the bottom, and the buildings just come down completely. And Israel is wiping out Lebanon. And they've made no bones about the fact that they're going to actually invade. They don't have an invasion force yet. They still occupy South Lebanon anyway, but they're going to go, I would imagine, all the way up to Beirut. We do have downtime also, so tomorrow I'm going to be on Greg Terry's at 4 p.m. Eastern, and then downtime 9 p.m. with Commander Lance McMillan, and we're going to be talking about this stuff. But I think they want Lebanon. I know they want Lebanon. I think they may make an effort to get it. Their attack today on Iran is very concerning because my suspicion is Trump told them it's not a good idea. And if Trump actually has figured something out accurately, wow. And Israel did it anyway, and it was obviously deliberate. And Israel even bragged about it. We've destroyed this facility. So Israel does not want this war to end. So now Trump's got another problem in trying to end it, which is even if he could negotiate some kind of ceasefire with the Iranians, and good luck because they have said they are going to avenge the deaths of all of their leadership. They're pissed, rightly so. Even if he could do that, Israel isn't going to stop, and we've tied ourselves to them. So he's got we've all got a problem. And they are willing to destroy all the oil in the Middle East. That's 30%. Well, now, wait a minute. Doesn't the U.S. make enough oil to... Yes, we make more oil than we use. 2 problems. 1, the oil is still on the international market. We buy and sell it at the same price as the market will bear, which is based on the number of buyers and sellers versus the available quantity. And the oil that we produce is not the same oil that we refine. Canada produces a lot of oil that they send down here for us to refine because Canada refines a different oil than they use, and we refine a different oil than we use, but we can refine each other's oil. So, long story short, the oil that we produce is it's the I forget what it's called. It's about the worst oil you can get. It's the really dark crude oil, and we can't refine that. So we have to send that oil for other places for refinement. Meanwhile, we buy the sweet crude that we can use, and that's how it goes. So. It's not about the reserves because we still have a refinement capacity issue. So we're already refining at maximum capacity. You can open up the reserves. The reserves aren't refined either. The U.S. isn't in the top 5, but North America represents 33% of all, 31.5% of all. Oil, roughly the same as the amount that's coming out of the Middle East. It's just a different kind. Yay. So that brings us to Pam Bondi, who testified today. Didn't testify. Let me rephrase that. So the head of the Senate Oversight Committee is really starting to piss me off. He's been pissing me off for a while. The chairman of the Oversight Committee is a Republican, and he's been doing everything he can to shut down the investigation. He keeps saying, well, all the questions have been answered, we're done, thank you. And the Democrats and the few Republicans willing to work with them actually have to push legislation through without him. So he blocks the legislation, they override his block, and then he says, oh, see, we're doing all this hard work, and he takes credit for their work when he's been doing nothing but trying to obstruct it. When they decided that they wanted to subpoena Pam Bondi, he blocked it. So they had to do a discharge petition to actually get her to be subpoenaed, which they succeeded over the chairman's explicit objections. Now, the chairman has said, look, you can just have her come in and do a briefing and she'll let you know what's going on. Well, the problem is with a briefing, you don't get to ask questions. And with a I think you can, depending on the kind of briefing. And she's not under oath. They want to get her under oath because they have some very serious questions for her that I think she's going to have a very hard time answering. In fact, I don't know how they have prepared a good enough case that I'm looking at to sink her if she testifies. So after they scheduled this deposition for April 16th, they scheduled 2 briefings, one for the House, one for the Senate oversight committees. Now, the Senate one was it's the oversight Dems on the Senate side. Why do I? God, there's too many political organizations. She went there today. The Dems did not want to go, and they said that they didn't want to go because it was a farce. They didn't feel she'd be honest. There was no way to compel her to be honest, and they felt that this was actually an attempt to get her not to have to come to the subpoena. So what she's going to do is not show up for the subpoena, say, no, I already showed up and you guys, didn't want to hear it. It's like, no, it's a different thing. Representative Lauren Boebert posted on X today that Bondi and Blanche both showed up, quote, willingly before the House Oversight Committee to answer questions. And the Democrats all walked out. Quote, Democrats just stormed out after refusing to ask questions because the cameras are off. Nothing is ever good enough for these theatrical fools, Boebert said. Now, let's see, then who... House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, oh God, the Attorney General was willing to come and answer their questions, and they walked out. They also don't want to tip their hand. They don't want to ask her their questions when she's not under oath, because then when she is, she's going to know what's coming. That kind of tells you this is all about politics for the Democrats, and the Democrats have basically responded that they are not going to permit her to use this. And that, in fact, I think, I'm going to play this clip because I think this clip is very important, and this is a preview of just how much trouble Pam Bondi is in. And the memes that I've been seeing float around are her and Kash Patel talking about going either to jail or to hell. So let's, and I want to quickly, is the audio set up on this? It is. So let's play this clip. Now, this was one of the I think it was one of the oversight Dems talking about why he did not want to participate in the her presentation to them, and instead was waiting for the actual subpoena for her to testify.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to discuss this administration's massive cover-up of the Epstein files in order to conceal President Trump's involvement. This cover-up reached its apex last month when Attorney General Pam Bondi falsely testified under oath before the House Judiciary Committee. The Attorney General testified, quote, "There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that," unquote. This is a lie. In the 3 million or so documents that the DOJ has disclosed to Congress under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, there is credible evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. And that, of course, excludes the nearly 3 million pages that the DOJ is refusing to turn over. Donald Trump is mentioned thousands of times in the Epstein files. There are multiple allegations that he sexually assaulted young girls. But I want to focus on one victim's allegations that the FBI unquestionably found to be credible. The DOJ tried to hide reports of 3 of the 4 interviews that this victim gave to the FBI, but pressure from the media and Congress forced them to disclose them. And now we know why. She credibly accuses Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her when she was between 13 and 15. In each of her interviews, this victim recited the same account of her interaction with Donald Trump. On August 7, 2019, she explained that she was between 13 and 15 when she was left alone with Donald Trump, who, quote, mentioned something to the effect of, "Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be." Trump unzipped his pants and put her head down, quote, down to his penis, bit the S out of it. Trump struck the victim and said words to the effect of, "Get this little B the hell out of here." The victim advised that she bit Trump's penis because he disgusted her. She provided some additional details in the next interview 2 weeks later, and then a month later, she met again with the FBI and asked, quote, what the point would be of providing the information at this point in her life when there was a strong possibility nothing could be done about it. She didn't speak to the FBI again. But the FBI certainly found her story credible. In a 21-page PowerPoint presentation that the FBI made to prosecutors, they included this victim's testimony. They would not have done so if they did not find the evidence credible, which means that Attorney General Bondi lied when she stated under oath that there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. But we're just scratching the surface, because the Epstein files also reveal that Donald Trump has made false statements over the past quarter century about Jeffrey Epstein. We know in 2002 he called him a terrific guy and said, quote, "It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." In a birthday card, 2003, that Donald Trump gave to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday, Donald wrote for himself that we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never aged. Have you noticed that? A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. But in that same year, Palm Beach County opened an investigation into Epstein that eventually was turned over to the FBI. The investigation became public in 2006, and the Palm Beach County police chief received a call quickly after from Donald Trump, where Trump told him, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." What innocent person calls the police chief about an investigation upon just learning about it? The recent documents also show that Jeffrey Epstein emailed Ghislaine Maxwell and said, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." Trump also denied that he ever went on Epstein's plane. But of course, the Southern District of New York said that he was on his plane 8 times, often with young women. The reason why this matters is because we don't have half of the Epstein files. And if the Attorney General is covering this up in such a degree that she is redacting things from Congress, that she then, redacting things from the public that she then shows to Congress, what else is she covering up? And I would just show that this document here was redacted to the public, it was unredacted to Congress, and it completely disputes everything that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein, about what he knew about the allegations, about his disgusting behavior, about whether he'd ever been to Epstein's house, saying, "I may have been there with my wife." Asked if any young girls were there. No. He may have had children of guests, but that's it. Well, we know that's not the case. Now, why is this important? Because if the Attorney General is covering up this information that she then reveals to Congress, what else is she covering up about Donald Trump's involvement in the Epstein files? I yield back.
Members are reminded to refrain.
All right. And as a reminder, Pam Bondi is Trump's personal attorney, at least was, but once you've been somebody's personal attorney, you kind of are for life in one way or another. So, they clearly are going to do the way lawyers do this, which is just point by point and on the smallest point. They only need to get her once on lying. They hit her and they're just like, this is what you said, you lied. Boom. And on even on the tiniest and it's not a tiny thing. None of these are tiny things, but they have to bring it down to, because she wants to blow it up to, well, there's no evidence that he was part of a huge conspiracy. It's like we're talking about, they have to just build it brick by brick, like building a house, building a case against him. And it sucks that it takes so much time. It sucks that it's this hard, but no. So they know what they're doing, and the reality is she wouldn't have to answer any questions like that under oath. She is withholding illegally half of the Epstein files, and he brings up a spectacular point, which is if this is the half they were willing to release and deliberately redacting stuff that contradicted previous statements that Trump had made in the past, meaning the redactions aren't quite as chaotic as they made it sound like, Trump said X, Y, and Z, and this says he's lying. So we got to, somebody was paying attention to what they were redacting. Not always, because we got to see some interesting stuff, but what is left? It has to be the worst of the worst. That's all it could possibly be. If it was innocuous, they'd have released it. So I think this is going to be a very serious hearing for Bondi. It's closed door, which is good. That is a wise idea. But I think the chairman understands the gravity of this, and he is Team Trump all the way. So he is going to make the argument that she does not need to come to the subpoenaed hearing on the 16th because she did the briefing today, and they walked out of the briefing. They didn't take the opportunity to take full advantage of it, knowing full well that at the briefing today, she was not under oath. And none of her answers would be meaningless. And probably they stayed through the briefing just long enough to realize it was all absolute BS. Because how many times have we heard there's no evidence implicating Trump? There's a lot of evidence implicating Trump. There's proof implicating him? No, but they like to conflate the two. They like to move the bar on the standard of there's a lot of evidence that he was involved. A lot of it. So saying that there's none is insane. Having said that, the number of MAGA who believe it, it's MAGA. What can you do? All right. We do have this, and let's see this. It's worth noting. It came in actually yesterday, but World Health Organization, an organization we are no longer members of because fuck the world, says they are preparing for a nuclear catastrophe if a U.S.-Israel war with Iran escalates further. Now, they're not necessarily talking about the deployment of nuclear weapons, although they are preparing for that as well. But they are preparing for if the U.S., I mean, right now, Trump, to save what he seems to think is dignity or honor, wants to get the uranium. He said that getting that uranium is his top, and he's willing to deploy troops to try to do it. That's insanely stupid. It's at the heart of a mountain that is fortified against, I mean, do you have any idea the kill ratio that we're going to have? It's not going to be in our favor. Unless you just blow up the entire site, which you can do. But there are problems with blowing up a site that has 90% enriched uranium on it. I shouldn't have to explain this, but our cheeseburger in chief seems to not understand it. So we don't know what's going to happen. They're also concerned because there was a missile that landed about 300 yards from a nuclear power plant in the Middle East. If somebody accidentally targets or hits a nuclear power plant, there's going to be an incident. So the World Health Organization is preparing for that actively. Let's see. Worst case scenario is a nuclear incident. That's something that worries us the most. Said Han Backley, WHO regional director for the Eastern Mediterranean. As much as we prepare, there's nothing that can prevent all harm that will come this region's way and globally if this happens, and the consequences will last for decades. So it's nice to know that there's an organization out there that's actually thinking, and if our executive branch could learn to do something like that, especially before taking military action, that would be just swell. Anyways, we are sending you tonight to the Humanity and I don't know if it's a debate or just a discussion between a Christian and a ex-Christian, but I don't think it's started yet, but it's supposed to start soon. Let's see, it's a different time zone. So hopefully it'll be just starting when we send you over there. Also tomorrow I will be on Greg Terry's. The link to that will be on our Discord. It will also be on Greg Terry's Discord. We'll be discussing all of this stuff over there. Should be fun. Join us on our Discord if you want to follow up on any of these stories. Oh, I didn't check and see just to make sure. Okay, nobody. I don't know. I figured with all the foolishness, I was going to get something about a burning goat, but didn't. So I'm going to get away before that happens. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Our next show is I'm going to be on Greg Terry's tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then 9 p.m. Eastern. We will have Downtime with Commander Lance McMillan, and obviously a lot to talk about. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.